let's go ahead and get started. Emily, Brandon, thank you guys for doing this. This is going to be fun. We have, I see a number of folks have joined the live or are joining the live right now. So we have a whole series of questions and interview that we're going to go through for the three of us. So this should be really fun. So stick around. And if we have time at the end, we might just take some questions as well. So feel free to chime in the comment section. Emily, do you want to get us kicked off with the first set of questions? We're going to kind of interview Brandon, the pit Marine, and Emily from Track View Racing will do some questions. And of course, yours truly, NASCAR John, will chime in as well. So let's get it started.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess just like getting to know Brandon, I found one of like the coolest things was like him just talking about his path to NASCAR. So I definitely wanted you to go into like going from the Marines to NASCAR and just like your family life and like how that started for you and how it's going now.
Sure. Right now, going pretty good. Of course, it takes years to get into this sort of stuff in any sort of serious capacity. So I'd say just starting from the beginning, I was a infantry rifleman in the Marine Corps in 2012 to 2016, and I was processing myself out. You go through a course called TRS. So it kind of trains you how to be a civilian again, more or less, right? Like, job paths are very different, just mannerisms in general are different in the civilian world than they are in the military. So there's a lot of stuff that's acceptable there that's not here, and vice versa. So I was attending this course, and a gentleman, I wish I could remember his name, he worked at Universal Technical Institute, and he was a recruiter for the NASCAR branch, specifically in Mooresville. So he was kind of advertising everything and talking about the career future and everything that we could possibly have, and either, at a dealership or in motorsports if we wanted to, because NASCAR tech over there, the school kind of gets a bad rep from a lot of the kids that go through there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, for one, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that school. My path would have been very different. And I know one thing for sure, that's one reason why, I was able to get into the sport. So going from there, I got a couple numbers from some people because I didn't know necessarily what I wanted to do yet. I thought like maybe engine building would be pretty cool, but I took all the courses, and you're required to take all of their offered automotive courses before you're allowed to take NASCAR, motorsports, welding, fabrication, and pit crew. All of those are considered electives. So the automotive kind of takes the center of attention there. So went through the automotive side, and I got interested in that, but I've never, motorsports has kind of always like been my thing. So I went on into the electives and did NASCAR engines. There's two separate classes. You get a lot of hands-on experience with the old Dodge R5 motors that they had a ton of them in there, and you get to break them all the way down and build them back up, learn how. And so I thought that was kind of cool, but then fabrication kind of took my interest a little bit. Went from there to welding, and then it was like, well, I kind of like welding, but then we went to the pit crew class, and that took my complete attention from that point forth. Just the way the teamwork and everything functions. I've told a lot of the people that I've worked with in the sport, because a lot of them ask like how the military is. It's very, very similar to pit crew in terms of just the teamwork aspect of it, the camaraderie that comes from both work and just what we call in the military the suck, right? Just going through the daily life, the grind, the training, and all of that. It even down to the mannerisms of the people, always, it's very, very relatable to the Marine Corps in my mind. So I felt like I fit in pretty well there right off the rip, and I got a couple numbers, and God, I got to turn my notifications off.
I had to do that earlier. You're all good.
I got
Also, it told me that I wasn't moving, so like paused me for whatever reason. So anyhow, just if I randomly wave, like just know that's why.
yeah. So yeah, if I get that's that part where I kind of get monotoned. But I got a number for a guy that had a pit school, so I started working there, and I trained for a few months, and ended up going to the racetrack. My first race was actually with if I can't remember the guy's name, Ray. I can't remember his last name, but he drove the 49 truck. It was like sponsorless, just a black truck. And we finished ninth at Michigan there, my very first race. The pit stops were awful. Just finished ninth, and I was like, wow, maybe I have some serious success here. I don't think I finished top 10 for another couple of years, but
Brutal.
That's part of it,
Yeah.
So I went from there. Ray didn't run anymore, so I was working with Jennifer Jo Cobb and pitting her truck. Went from there to pit Joe Nemechek's Xfinity car for a little while. Technically, it's Mike Harmon's, but Joe was driving, which I thought was cool because, I was still a pretty hardcore fan at the time, and so I was like, it's Joe Nemechek, of course you get a little bit starstruck about it. So I watched this guy when I was like 6. Of course, he doesn't want to hear that. But that was pretty cool. So from that point, just kind of kept going through the process of, I was under this pit school. The pit school came under new management. And I just kind of stuck it out with this pit school. It kind of moved from a pit school to more like a pit crew agency where teams can just, come and put in orders for pit crews week in and week out, and we would supply them. And we trained pit crews in-house. And that's not really done as much anymore, or at least it's not as popular, especially since the single lug came along, and it kind of just wrecked the pit crew community and the pipeline and everything. So up until the middle of last year, I was technically at that same organization. So I stayed at the same organization for 6.5 years. So for what that's worth, that's something. But I had a couple opportunities to go to like Gibbs. I did a little bit of single lug stuff there when it first came up, a little bit of stuff at Roush before it became RFK, and had the opportunity to go to these places. And regrettably, in hindsight, I did not take those chances to go do that because I just didn't believe in the whole like backstabby-ish culture that kind of control, like has a grip on the pit crew community, because it's very, very cutthroat. And I think now, again, in hindsight, I think that as long as you, abandon, or as long as you understand that it's not necessarily like just backstabbing, it's just business, and everybody has to do what is best for them. Because if you don't, then somebody else is, and you're going to get left by the wayside. That's what happens. So I didn't take those opportunities, but I mean, I don't know if I would have done it any differently now, because I have a big love for the small teams where you go there, and if you're good at your job, you work hard. I feel like if you bring something to the table, you're more value. You're less of just a number, that HR lady stamps off on your check and sends it. It's a little bit more personal. Whereas at some of the more corporate teams, it gets to be very, I don't want to say hands off. It's like it's very easy to lose, the emotion and the passion and the attachment to this game. So yeah, I mean, before I get off on a tangent on that, I ended up, just going through the process, spending years, and after I separated from this organization last year, I started dabbling a little bit in the sports car world. A friend of mine, John McGee, a really good friend of mine, he is pretty well connected on both ends, NASCAR and sports car. And he said, well, I got this BMW team that really needs help. And so we went over there, and I worked with him for a little bit, and then brought in another friend of mine who's been in the sport he's still changing tires today. He started changing tires in 2003. So he's still pretty good too. So he's been around a while. And I took him with me, and we started working on these pit programs for a couple of these sports car teams. One being the B&W team that I'm heavily rooted with now. I love that group. And the IMSA Michelin Pilot team, which is the Toyota team. It's a lot to keep up with, but I like them too. It's a Brazilian group, so they don't speak a whole lot of English, but it was really cool to get to learn their culture a little bit and go back and forth and kind of learn ways to cross that language barrier, just new challenges that, NASCAR didn't really present, but it helped me develop. And, I don't know per se where we go from here just yet. There's a lot of stuff on the table that I'm not too sure about just yet, but I love working with sports car teams. Maybe that's something, if I end up in NASCAR again next year, then I'm definitely there. Those bridges are not, going to be burned. We're going to hold on to those connections because I really like doing the sports car stuff. But NASCAR still has that hold on me. I think, a lot of guys try to retire and they always come back, until they just can't do it. The sport has a way of holding you like that. So, well, I think I have to pick next year, one or the other, because this year was pretty difficult between trying to maintain good performance across 3 different disciplines of pit stop. It gets to be hard, to do 3 things perfectly is it's not realistic, So anywho, that's where we're at now. So off season, thinking about what's coming next.
Oh, Brandon, that's awesome. Thanks for giving us kind of your rundown of how you got from the Marines to NASCAR. I was particularly curious because, you hear a lot about athletes who get recruited out of college or even professional sports who then come to NASCAR. So I was curious to hear about your connection from the military to NASCAR. You touched on a lot of things that are on our list that we want to dive in further. But quickly recap for us, what series and what teams did you work for this past season?
So this past season, so in NASCAR, I was asked to help out with Joey Gase's cars to change rears or fronts, whatever he might have needed. By Nice Motorsports, I was contracted through Nice to work for them, and it goes back to that whole cutthroat thing. It ended up there was just not really a place for me there. It's like no fault of the team or anything. It's just stuff, a lot of moving pieces in the off season, and it just didn't land my way. So I decided to stay connected with said B&W team, and I told them, I want to go do the sports car stuff still. Like, if you need me, call me. And so they did, when they needed me. And when CJ McLaughlin ran the 92 for DGM, I would pit for him as well. And I got a call from about halfway through the year, I think I got a call from Trackhouse to go do the 11 for Josh Williams at Bristol. And there was a couple more. Jeremy Clements, I got the call to do his car a couple times as well. So just kind of all over the place on the NASCAR side, but not any teams I'm not unfamiliar with. So it was no big deal.
Yeah, well, I think that's really cool that you've worked with so many different teams, and like you said earlier, just that love of working with smaller teams where you're sort of integrated. So I want to talk about that for a second because, and I have a little story around this. I won't name names, but I know somebody who works in IndyCar, and he was once telling me that he worked with a driver who's done both IndyCar and NASCAR. And he was just like, yeah, the teams, the NASCAR teams, they just fly in. They don't really care about the people. Like, it's just so unpersonal. And like, maybe coming from the IndyCar world where there's fewer people, I can understand his perspective. But I was immediately like, I don't know if that's true. So, and you've moved to different people. What does it feel like as a pit crew member in particular? Do you feel integrated to a team? Do you feel invested? You sort of talked about that as far as like big team or small team, but I want to hear from your perspective. how in what ways do you feel invested or even like disconnected from a team?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So to his point, I've kind of seen his side too, because I've been part of the sports car stuff when NASCAR is in town per se. So I worked a little bit with Mustang Challenge, and they were at the Roval when we ran it.
Right. Yeah.
So having done the NASCAR show and then turn around and deal with like IMSA guys, they're like, yeah, I don't even understand. They like in IMSA and sports car, like probably IndyCar as well. You show up and it's like a 4 or 5 day event for you. There's a whole day where you do nothing but just test the car, and then you have another day where there's just nothing but practice, and you might have a qualifying round at the end of the day, and then the next day is another day of just tech practice qualifying, and then you finally get to the races, right? And these guys are like, well, I don't understand. Like NASCAR guys, like we watched them unload and said, oh, that'll be cool to, I got to get over there at some point this weekend and see what they're all about. And then the next day they get up and everyone's gone. So it's like, well, what happens? Like, well, that's kind of the way we do things. Like it's very, very, everything gets compressed, and it's crunch time all the time. So totally understand that and why it seems very disconnected and dispersonal. Totally get it, but it's just a different animal. Everything happens so much quicker. So with as far as the team aspect being connected or disconnected or whatever, that's definitely something that you have to deal with as a pit guy. Some of those bigger teams, I feel like you probably get a lot more of that disconnect, at least on a corporate level. Probably not with your team. I mean, I imagine like those 5-6 guys you work with, I know that gets very, very personal. There's a lot of teams. So from my perspective, you work for a team or for 4 or 5 teams throughout a year, like I did. There's some teams where you might be more connected with the driver on a personal level.
Right.
You might be more connected with the team from past experiences, like say with Clements. I know his entire team, and still stay contacted with that group a lot in my personal life. And then somebody like, say, Joey Gase's team, I'm not as connected with them, so I'm not like necessarily showing up with the think of the nice way to say this, not necessarily showing up with the same kind of attention to like where the car is on track and everything as Jeremy Clements did. There's a little bit less, I guess, race fan in there where you're like, man, I hope we get a real good finish today or whatever. It's more business where it's like, okay, we're going to go get the best finish we can, and we're going to do it well. It's a little bit less like, yeah, it's going to be great. So
yeah, kind of doing a job versus like wanting to perform at your best, right? Like I met somebody in the garage this year who said that. It was like, I'm just collecting a paycheck this week. And I'm sure some weeks it's that, and some weeks it's like, hey, we're gonna perform well, we're gonna go out and win or whatever, or get the best finish we can, right?
Yep.
I guess I wanted to know more about like the differences between when you're getting ready for a NASCAR weekend versus a IMSA weekend. Like, do you prepare for it differently? What's the different procedures that you have to go through? Is there anything maybe that you like more or dislike a little bit more on the other side or one side?
Sure. So on the NASCAR side, it's a lot of, so say just starting off here in this room, actually, all my equipment is off in the corner. So I go through all of that and pick out exactly what I need. So there's like, so I've worked in like 5 or 6 series this year, but just, we'll say the main 3 are just NASCAR, WRL, which is World Racing League. It's just another kind of IMSA type series. And then IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. So for NASCAR, I want to make sure I have my fire suit if I need it. If it's a team that doesn't have, necessarily all the funds to have all these fire suits, then I want to make sure I bring that. All my fireproof Nomex undergear and stuff, the headstock. They actually started checking for socks now, so at least last year. And then, of course, the gloves are SFI rated too.
Yeah.
All that stuff has to get packed away. Truck, you're going to pack your own pit gun for trucks because there's no mandated paoli guns for that. So helmet and all that. Whereas for like WRL, I'm probably not going to be packing the same fireproof undergear that I would be because it's just not required in the rules. So it's just a whole different set of rules. And then IMSA is a lot like NASCAR in that respect. So all that stuff gets packed, and then NASCAR, I will be going probably 30 minutes down the road to a private airport, on a private plane to fly out probably the same day, show up and do my job there. And right there is where a lot of that like pre-race stuff comes in, where I'm kind of listening to a certain playlist of music to get myself like in the mood, or taking care of tires, no less than 2 or 3 hours before the race. You're taking care of all that stuff, setting up the pit box, you're pushing it out, setting it up, doing the race, taking it all back down, taking it back, pushing it into the hauler, and all that takes place in one day. So, and something like WRL is where I've worked the most hour. The hours are egregiously long. So, say WRL, instead of leaving on Saturday morning like NASCAR, I'm leaving Wednesday in the morning. I'm driving to Charlotte to fly out of the commercial airport, flying to the track, say Sebring or Road Atlanta or something like that, and getting there, getting in the rental car with my buddy, driving through the track, and then we're starting to unload the hauler. So you unload the hauler and you set up basically a full race garage, either right there next to the hauler, or if the track allots you a garage space like Watkins Glen, you get to do it in there, and that's a lot easier. But if you don't have a garage space, there's a giant awning that comes out from the side of the hauler. You build a garage right there, basically, and unload everything. And instead of, 6 to 7 sets of tires, you're looking at like 15 to 20 sets of tires that you're having to process. And so you start doing all that, and the car gets set up there, and it's mind-boggling how much goes into it. But you're probably leaving the track at 10, 11 p.m., going to your hotel, Airbnb, or whatever, sleeping, and then you're back at the track at 6, 7 in the morning, and then it's all day, testing. So while we're handling tires and all of that and setting up pit road the following day, that's when you get everything on pit road set up so that the engineers can do their job, so we can do our job if the car needs tires or fuel or anything like that. Set all that up, and then you're there, all day, going back and forth between pit and garage, like depending on what the car needs. If you crash a car, that sometimes happens, during testing, practice, whatever. And so that's how it goes all day. And then the practice and qualifying sessions are split up throughout the day. You get a schedule, you know when the car is going out, when it's coming back. And when those sessions are over, you have to get the car ready for tomorrow. So then you're there until, some of the guys that are really hands-on with the car are there until 11, to midnight that night. Sometimes we've seen them there 1 to 2 in the morning, and then getting an hour or two of sleep and coming back at 6, 7 the next day. And you just repeat that, practice, qualifying days, and then the race day for WRL is 8 hours. It's an 8-hour endurance race on Saturday. And after that race is over, you have to get the car ready for the 7-hour endurance race on Sunday. So then you run the 7-hour race.
How many pit stops would you be doing between that 8 hours? Would you?
So we've had as few as 2 pit stops for tires.
Damn.
And we've had as many as 20 to 30 pit stops for tires in one day. Where we were trying a new tire that had a different compound and different, and we kept putting down left front tires during the race. So we were scrambling we ran out of left front tires and had to keep making more out of other tires, and it had to have been close to 30 pit stops just for left side tires, and sometimes that happens. And when you've done 4 or 5 pit stops for blown tires, an hour into an 8-hour race, it's a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. And IMSA resembles NASCAR a little bit more. Sure. It's not as ridiculously long days, but it is still about a 3-day show. So it's kind of like how Cup used to be. You know, they'd show up on Thursday and practice, and Friday and practice, and Saturday practice, qualify, race on Sunday. You know, it's kind of like how Cup used to be. That's how IMSA kind of works their deal.
Well, it sounds like you have like two complete ends of the spectrum, right? Where you're like all day, every day for like the stretched out time period, or like incredibly compact, like
Yep.
no in between.
Yep.
You're either in both or like, is this gonna end anytime soon?
Yeah, those are super long days. Emily, do you want to keep going on your question, or do you want me to
I'm all good. You could-
Okay, I'm gonna skip around. I think. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep going. So, what does the off season look like for you as a pit crew member? You've talked a little bit about like making plans for next year, uncertain of where you're going to be. So, what does that look like?
Well, off season for me is only about a month long. So for NASCAR, you know, all my NASCAR guys, like they're gone. You know, they're in other countries and, you know, vacationing or sleeping, hibernating, whatever they do in the off season. And I'm convinced some of them do sleep the entire time because they just disappear, you know, until January. But so for NASCAR side, I mean, nothing. I guess I wait and kind of put the feelers out there, and you know, we got some guys put together that want to you know go look for a NASCAR deal next year. Maybe get in touch with some teams and offer us up to them, etc. But for WRL is not over yet. Our last race is December, the first weekend in December. That'll be the championship race for that. IMSA.
And where's that race at, Brandon?
Coda.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. I was trying to figure out. I was like, this has got to be somewhere in the southern United States. Florida was my guess, but I figured they've already run like Sebring or Daytona or whatever.
Yeah, so WRL is not dissimilar from ARCA in their point setup. So they have like an east and a west, a lot like ARCA does. So it's kind of just appropriate for their championship week to be right in the center of the
middle.
country,
Yeah,
you know?
Sure.
So the East Championship just ended, and we came second. There's another team that kind of gets, you don't want to use the word cheating, but they're the favorites. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's no secret they're the favorites.
Sure.
So they get hooked up a lot, and they've won a majority of the races. The gap between us and them, we've won one race this year. We've got a ton of podiums, but just to put it in perspective, they've won somewhere between like 10, 12 races, something like that. And so the gap between them and us is just, they had it won 3 races ago, you know.
Jeez.
So we're just showing up to race and try to get a couple more wins. And so the race season will officially be over after that week in December for me. And then I'll have a month before, you know, the Rolex 24, and trying to get a deal set up where a buddy of mine and I can go do the Rolex. That's a big thing on my bucket list. I've always wanted to do the 24-hour race somewhere. So
that's awesome. I figured that was on your bucket list. I was going to ask. So
way up there, like at the top.
That's super cool.
Yeah, Rolex, IndyCar is up there. Baja 1000 is up there. Because the Baja 1000, I don't know if you've seen their tire changers, but they actually wear the tank on their back. It's pretty wild.
That is wild. I haven't seen that now.
I didn't discover that until like a couple months ago. I thought that was super sick.
And you're like, top of the list, baby.
Yep.
Here we go.
I was like, yep, that's got to be done before I croak. So we're going to do that. So yeah, so off season will probably consist of just trying to put together deals for next year. I'll take Christmas to go home to Alabama and see the family, and hell, we might go find somewhere to vacation for a week or so. But really, I think it's more important for my career now than probably ever to just stay working, you know, because as soon as I start to relax and chill out a little bit, then that's just where I'm going to be for a while. So I'm I'm getting old, it's 32, it feels old these days. So a lot of the guys that are on the climb in this sport are, 18 to 20 years old, and 21, 22 is starting to ease into that. We want somebody a little younger, and then you get in your 30s, and it's like, we can find somebody a little faster, younger, So we got to kind of put together our stuff these days. I call myself old, but I'm working with guys that are like 40, trying to still really good at it, but
Yeah.
they don't want us guys anymore. We're not as fast anymore.
Oh my gosh.
You're why.
Huh?
You're why. You have them for you. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah. Ugh. I'll try to look at it like that.
All right. Do you want to go on to the next?
Yeah, go for it, Emily. Yeah.
So I wanted you to kind of go into NASCAR changing from 5 lugs to single lugs on the Cup Series side, and pretty much just how that's affected you personally, and then kind of just like maybe go into how difficult it is to receive the training on the Cup Series side, because I think we've talked a little bit, and I think you told me there's like predominantly only one team. It's Hendrick maybe or something like that. I could be completely wrong. Don't quote.
Predominantly what,
like training on for like the single lugs
Oh,
side.
so it's basically not, it's not just one. It's your bigger, your Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick. They all have their own, in-house trainings. Was it training facilities now? 2311 as well has their own. And so when they introduced the idea of the single lug, I mean, I was in such disbelief about it and about how it was going to work. I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way they stick with that idea. That doesn't make any sense to do that. And when asked the question, NASCAR typically was like, well, we're like, why? Why would you want to use a single lug nut? It's like, well, the aluminum wheel, it's going to crack if you have 5 under a warp or whatever. If you put 5 on there, it's like, okay, well, what's wrong with the steel wheels? It's like, well, we didn't want to do the steel wheel. It'd be too heavy. If we did it like the streetcar spokes or whatever, it'd be too heavy, It's like, well, just do the original, stick with what you got then. I don't know why. It's like, well, we want it to be more like the streetcar. I don't see any Mustangs or Camaros rolling around with a single lug nut. I mean, now the GTD came out, it's got a single lug nut, so you can't make that argument anymore. But, I mean, you can't get a 358 cubic inch Camry with a single lug nut. You just can't do it. So that argument goes out the window. And then, if you keep asking questions, shut up, sit down. Like, we're going to do a single lug and you're going to like it. And I think a lot of that was to help NASCAR maintain more control over the pit crew landscape, in my opinion. It also helps out those big teams because your independent pit crews, this more or less puts them out of business, because there's nobody that's going to go out there and buy a single lug car for the sake of doing pit practice on it and things like that. The big teams, they have those resources, and independent crew does not. And man, how it affected me personally, and I hold a lot of resentment towards this whole single lug move and NASCAR for doing so. But I'll put that aside for the sake of argument's sake. So it affected me personally because I was on what has always been told to me was the pit crew, like the training pipeline. You start in ARCA or somewhere down there at your snowball derbies and stuff like that, and you kind of show, who you are, and you start developing, and you get better, and you climb the ranks, and kind of come into trucks and Xfinity drivers that used to be the same way. You kind of move it up, to each level. And I was on this pipeline thinking, well, in a couple years, if I keep, on this path, I'll be pitting cup cars and all that, whatever. And when the single lug came along, it erased all that. So now you have back up a little bit. The ARCA, the first domino, in my opinion, was ARCA getting rid of competitive stops. That messed a lot of stuff up too. And then trucks kind of played with the idea of doing it as well. And people really didn't like it. And luckily people pushed back enough where NASCAR was like, okay, fine, we won't do that. But yeah, there was a time where trucks, we almost didn't see any more competitive stops in trucks, and I think that influenced some things like the Paoli guns only being for Xfinity and Cup. They didn't do that for truck. So I don't know. It blurred the line so bad to where now, you can go to ARCA and you can still learn, how to do pit stops and stuff, but it's not on the same competitive level as, say, a truck. So even when you jump from doing no pit stops to ARCA, and then you learn a lot of bad habits in ARCA, and a lot of this stuff is a lot of people compare it to dancing. It's everything is choreographed. Everything has a purpose. Every single movement is meant to be moving in some direction and not be wasted. And there's not a lot of that in ARCA. And it's ARCA's fault. It's not the people who work in its fault. But then you go from ARCA to truck, and it's a culture shock, because now it's like, oh, I have to be way faster. And you move from truck to Xfinity, and it's kind of almost like a lateral move, because trucks are actually harder to pit, believe it or not. That's the majority of the reason why you see the stop slower on a truck. The tolerances and the clearances and everything are so much tighter. An Xfinity car is actually easier to pit. So then you go from Xfinity to nowhere, because now there's a line below Cup where now you don't just work your way up, you get recruited from college. Because I'll tell a very short story. I had a buddy, again, we won't name names, but he played football for Georgia. He was like, hey, man, how do I get into NASCAR? I gave him the same, story I tell everybody. And he's like, well, could I not just call, Joe Gibbs? Well, not Joe Gibbs himself, but, Joe Gibbs Racing. Like, well, yeah, I guess you could do that. And lo and behold, he does. He calls up there, and because he plays football for Georgia, that will come on down. We'll train you and see what you got, what it takes or whatever. And so he shows up and he texts me and he's like, hey, I'm at Gibbs. I was like, oh, cool. I've only been working at this for 6 years. You just walk in the door. It's fine. And so he walks in there and he trains for 3 months on a single lug car, right? And then his very first race, I kid you not, his very first race, he gets put on Denny Hamlin's car, wins the race.
No way.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
So for something that used to take years to do, now it just takes a couple months. And you get trained a couple months. Now you could trip and fall backwards into a really good opportunity and win a race with Denny Hamlin, not even knowing who he is, And it's so now the lines are so blurred, and that's not an isolated incident either. This has happened many times where guys are just pulled from the ranks of football or baseball and tossed into, a couple of months of training, and then they go out there and they're pitting cup cars. And they will swear up and down to you that single lug is more difficult. We'll leave that there. We all know the facts. So,
yeah. Brandon, I'm glad you shared that. I was curious. You kind of started off your answer by saying this gave NASCAR more control of the pipeline, and I think you perfectly explained it with that illustration. But that really piqued my interest when you said that.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people don't realize all this stuff happens. Because it's when you put it in a perspective like, oh, this is a great success story, which it is. I don't hold any of the guys' fault.
Right.
It's
right.
great.
Don't hate the player. Right.
Right. Exactly. It's great that they're able to, find another way to pursue an athletic career, because a lot of these guys, football was like their life, right? Baseball, soccer was their life. And when you don't get that pro, opportunity, then there's a misconception where it's like, oh, well, he just wasn't good enough. So that's not always the case, and it doesn't change in NASCAR either. There's a lot of drivers and pit crew guys and whatever, engineers, engine builders that don't get the opportunity they need or their dream opportunity or whatever. Doesn't mean they're not good. That kind of goes back to networking in the sport is king. I've said it 100 times. Who you have a beer with means a lot more than who you work for and who you call and give your resume to. That's why it sucks, because you are more likely to get a job somewhere by buying some guy a beer after a race than putting in your resume anywhere. It's almost never going to get seen. You can imagine how many resumes Hendrick Motorsports has in its database that will never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Because what's the point in looking at them? When you can find the guys that, oh, well, my cousin, he knows a guy. I got a buddy that works over at Roush. He knows a guy that's really good at his job and just needs to move somewhere, and that guy's going to get the job and then never have to look at the resumes, So that's a big thing in the sport. And back to those guys, it's I'm happy that I have a lot of friends that have lucked out on that side and gotten the opportunity that they needed because they're athletes. Like, it's a great thing. I always kind of force myself to go back and look at it from their perspective. Like, if I were if football was my life and I had that ripped away from me, and now I have an opportunity to continue to pursue something like that, then of course, I would be ecstatic if, somebody would give me an opportunity based off just that, right? But then, of course, from my personal perspective, it sucks because I'm at a disadvantage because I didn't play football at Wake Forest, and it's very, very irritating, but you have to just it is what it is, right? It's not going to change. So that's the route that's the route NASCAR has chosen to go with its product. And I think that I don't think there's any way we go back. I think we go further down this rabbit hole, unfortunately. I think we see single lug Xfinity cars and trucks here pretty soon. I think it'll be sooner than some people might think. And when it happens, I don't know, maybe I decide to retire. Maybe I find an opportunity to this could all flip around. Somebody could say, hey, if you don't want to get out, there's going to be Xfinity and trucks around that have single lugs that big guys don't want to pit. Big teams don't want to pit, and this whole thing could turn into a big career opportunity. Will it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Things change in the sport on the daily.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with it all, right? And how much has changed. And I really appreciate you diving into how much the single lug changed things, because I think, from a fan's perspective or outsider's perspective, you kind of know some of this, or you think but it's really fascinating hearing how it's really changed the entire landscape. You've talked a lot about athletes and athleticism. Pit crew members are athletes. They get injured because it's a physical tolling job. And also, you guys are crazy. You run out in front of cars going 50 miles an hour plus. Not sure if the brakes are working or not, right? So if you are not under contract, does NASCAR cover your medical expenses if you're hurt? Or who covers your medical expenses if you get hurt from pit stops? What does that look like?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, so NASCAR has a incidental insurance in place in case you get hit or injured, something like that. You can kind of a double-edged sword, right? So when I got hit at Kansas last year, I went to the Infield Care Center. You get free health care right there. There's a lot of guys that even use the Infield Care Center as their personal doctor. But sometimes you can, if you're not feeling well on a Wednesday, you look at what track you're going to, well, I know where their Infield Care Center is, so if I'm still feeling like crap Saturday morning, I'll go, try to get treatment there. And if I haven't prepared well throughout the week, and I know it's going to be a really, really hot week in Nashville, then I'll go to the Infield Care Center, and you can get fluids before the race, and it makes a world of a difference. You get a couple bags through an IV, and so that's something that we have accessible to us that I think NASCAR has done a great job of doing, is implementing all of these local, because the Infield Care Center is nothing but like just a center where there's a local medical organization that comes in and, handles all that. Like Richmond, I think Virginia Tech, their medical center or whatever, conducts, operations at the Infield Care Center on race weekend. And so it's a good deal, but on the back side of that, the other side of the sword is when you get hurt, just like in any organization, this is not just a NASCAR thing. Yeah, do they have something in place to help you if you need it? Yeah. Are they going to do it willingly? That's a whole different thing. It's you have to stay on top of it and make sure that you let NASCAR and the appropriate people know that you are injured as soon as you can. Because if you wait a couple of days, there's always that question was like, well, how come you didn't feel like this yesterday? Should we really be paying money out to, and that's just business at the end of the day. It's not a NASCAR thing. If anybody's ever tried to file for workers' comp, you're going to run into the same problem, So yes, NASCAR has incidental insurance in place to help pit crews if they're hurt, if it's on NASCAR, right? So, I mean, you run out there and you get hit, and then if blood find alcohol in your system, well, that's gone. That's not NASCAR's fault. That's your fault. So that's just it's no different than as long as if you've worked in any sort of workplace, how all this stuff works. There's no real difference.
Yeah, that's helpful. Makes a lot of sense. Emily, I'll turn it over back to you.
Do you want to start into just the group questions, just kind of talking about NASCAR, the community, and
yeah, we can do that. I think Brandy, you covered most, or in some way covered our other questions. So
I mean, if there's anything that you want to talk about, Brandon, specifically that you people to know, the floor is yours. Bud. If there's anything that you can think of, and before we get into the community side of things,
I would say one thing that bothers me the most about probably the landscape of things now, and is that I see a lot of really, really passionate guys and girls that try to get into the sport, and they're coming from one organization or another. I'll just go ahead and toss it out. For example, there's a group of people that I have known for a while that go through the University of Northern Ohio. So up there, they have a motorsports program where that's where Fast Track and all of them get a lot of their crew members from. I know a lot of those people, and a lot of them are not collegiate athletes. Now, there are a couple that are, and they have gotten some pretty good opportunities so far. But I see a lot of them coming in, and it bothers me because I see myself, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I see my youngest little brother is 16, wants to get into the sport, and I don't see it's a problem because I don't see a clear-cut pipeline for these people that want to get into it. And I think that's a problem. I think that people that are going to come in and are passionate and are going to help move the sport forward, there needs to be a more clear path. Now, it can't be one all come all, everybody should, try to get into the sport, because then everybody would, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. But you would think the common sense thing would be start at the bottom, and if I work hard enough, I'll get to the top. And that's just not the case, most of the time. And so you have guys that are coming from Ohio and spending a lot of their own money to come down here to go to races to try to get their way into the sport. And now that if they want to be pit guys or girls, now Now the pit crew pipeline is completely trashed. So, yeah, you might be able to come pit cars, truck Xfinity, probably. And maybe if you're lucky, if you get really good enough and have beers with the right people, maybe you'll end up in Cup one day. I don't know how they do that. I've tried it for years and haven't got anywhere. So I don't know. It's just I feel bad for them because I love this sport and everything that comes with it. I love the grind, but it's just a lot of them don't understand that when you first start off, there's going to be no clear path to where they want to be, and everybody wants to be a champion at the end of the day, right? So there's no clear-cut path, and another point to that is that when they come here, because you have to live in this area if you want to be in this sport, it's just, look, that's how it has to be a majority of the time. Well, at least I take that back. Working in the shop or on pit side, you have to be in this area because you're going to be asked to go to practice and you're going to be asked to work in the shop, and and if you're not going to do that for them, then they're just not going to take you. So somebody else will, and that's unfortunate, but the way it is. Because I'd love to go back to Alabama and live there and still be able to do this life. I can't do it. It's just the way of the landscape. And when you first get here, again, going back to that no clear path, you don't know where to start. So even if you get an opportunity, they say, hey, move up here and we'll get you in the shop working. You come up here, well, what if, the hauler's son, needs a job and he's in high school or whatever. Well, now it's like, well, what do I do? I don't care. Find something else to do. So now you're up here with no job. You just moved. You paid a ton of money. Now what? So they have to understand they're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of sleep. They're going to lose a lot of money, and it's going to be miserable. But the beauty of this screwed up system is that it tests who really wants to be here. Because you have to put up with a lot of crap when you first start off, and it is a horrible process. And it seems like the lower you are on the totem pole, the harder you work, right? I mean, the closer you get to the top, the easier it gets. So just putting that out there, I hope a lot of people really listen to that before they try to pursue this, because it sucks and it's not fun at the beginning, and you'll have that. The enjoyable aspects of it. Obviously, it's not all bad. Like, it's not all terrible, but you're going to have times where you're like, man, how do I get anywhere? I can't, I'm running in place, or hell, I'm moving backwards, or you get fired. Like, actually, to take up more of your time, when I first started at NASCAR Technical Institute, I was in school probably about halfway through my semester, right? And I started working at Junior Motorsports, and I got an opportunity to work over there. And so I'd go in, and every morning I'd come in and go to the gym upstairs before all the pit guys and stuff got there, come downstairs, go to my toolbox, and there's not a whole lot of people there at like 5:30 in the morning when I was told to be there. But I would get there, and I was, of course, like, when nobody was there, I was like, taking pictures, like I was having a good time because I'm a race fan and my first job is Junior Motorsports. Like, I've made it,
Right.
Horrible attitude to have in this sport. And eventually it was brought up that it was like, hey, taking pictures and stuff, don't do that. We have a whole team to do that. Don't be doing that crap. So, okay, that sucks. So I just kind of went back to working or whatever. And then we ran this throwback scheme that I loved for Darlington. And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't help myself. I took a picture of it, and I posted it on my Facebook. And there was a car that we were taking to Talladega in the background. Suspension was wide open for everybody to see. Right?
Oh no! Oh no!
And that's the thing that I didn't understand at the time, is that I'm there to work. I'm not there to have a good time. You're there to help move the race team forward. There's social media people that do social media stuff. Leave that to them. You can be excited about it at home when you're by yourself, And I came into work the next morning, and they took my key card and said, well, we'll see you. You'll get your last check in the mail.
Ooh,
And I got my very first job. I got let go from Junior Motorsports after like 6 months.
that's
And at that
brutal.
point in time, I thought career over, because everybody knows each other in this sport. So, little tidbit there. If you're going to go to a Junior Motorsports or something, don't take pictures of the cars. Just go up and do your job, and don't post about it. Just put it on your Indeed and move on. Start working. So, and also, if you end up in a situation where you're in a bad situation like that, it's not, all hope is lost. I still very well could have ended up back there pitting one of their cars later on, in my career. So it's a hard roller coaster to ride sometimes.
Yeah, Brandon, as you described the racing life and trying to get into it, I just kept thinking like Charlotte and Nashville are the same. Like everybody's going to Nashville to try and make a name for themselves, trying to break it into country music or the music industry.
Yep.
And it's like the same in Charlotte, right? Like all this like sacrifice and the people versus the how good you are, and how it's not like, I would say both of those there's not necessarily like a linear path to those. So that's there needs to be a book or like a story about the comparisons between the two.
That's a good idea.
We'll get on that. Okay, let's dive into some of our questions for the group. So one of the big things that I know is Emily and I are really passionate about is community in motorsports. That it is, no matter who your favorite driver is, who you love, who you hate, like coming to the track, there is just this feeling of these are my people, this is my community, these are the people I get to see, once a year at this track, or as Brandon, as you travel the circuit. So what does community look like for you in the motorsports world? And that's just open to anybody. We'll go around and share that.
Yes, the community. So I think that like the sport itself, the community inside the sport itself is. I've always had that completely separate from the race fans, right? So I've there's a few media people that I've been fortunate to be friends with over the years, and then a lot of shop guys, a lot of pit guys, and yeah, I mean it's like seeing 12-year-old me would be ecstatic to be like to go, show up to the track and have as many people recognize you, and it's not just recognize you, but be your friend, and that you can see all the time, and that helps make work a little less work and more just I'm showing up to do this, to compete with my friends every weekend, and that makes a lot of that grind of that first 4 or 5, 6 years that sucked so bad. It makes it so much more worth it, to be a part of that now. And then on the other end of it, you have the fans that they have their own whole community that, I was a part of that before I ever got into this. So from 1999 until 2012, when I left for the Marine Corps, I didn't miss a Talladega race. Grew up there, so I was at every single one of them, and I loved being a part of that. And there's fans that reach out sometimes, and I realized that hell, I wouldn't have the following that I had or that I have if it wasn't for that community and want them, like everybody wants to feel part of this thing, right? And that's what fuels a lot of us to get involved in the first place. And so if I can, help them feel a little more connected, that makes me feel good. And plus I get to interact with some really cool people. So it's nice to be able to do that. And I mean, when I left that organization last year, it didn't end very well. And I quit in the garage area in Atlanta. And I was like, cool, well, I got my piece out, but now I don't have a ride home, right? So I had a couple buddies that do a podcast as well. I don't know if you're familiar with Fast Car. Okay. So I've been friends with them as well for a while as a group of fans there. And I texted them and was like, hey, you mind if I like crash in your RV for the night? So I figure out how to get home. And, of course they were like, yeah, come on. Like, so stay on their couch, and that's that kind of, there's not a whole lot of other communities out there that I think you could get away with doing that.
No.
And we're going to leave football completely out of it because that's a whole different landscape there, where of course you're going to have a multimillionaire NFL star stay in your camper, like, but they could probably just call a helicopter to come get them anyway. So, you don't have this anywhere else, you know, and you show up and you're not being grilled for, I'm sure there's fans out there that would do it, but you're not being grilled for autographs and free stuff and all this stuff.
Right.
They're just happy for you to be there. And, you know, you walk in the door, you're miserable, and you're like, well, you want to have a beer and laugh at the people outside in the campground? It's like, of course I do. So, yeah. There's so many stories of, you know, the NASCAR community and itself just being so great, you know, and we could even go back to the hurricane that hit the Appalachian. Didn't see a whole lot of like you saw a whole lot of people like coming together, but it wasn't a ton of like organizations, like big time organizations. And then one morning I woke up and got on Instagram and I'm like, dude, all of the NASCAR organizations are like sending planes and,
Yeah.
you know, haulers cross country to go into the Appalachian. They're like, well, how are we going to get there? Because they have roads blocked off and they're not letting trucks in. I mean, I heard from a buddy of mine that, I mean, Mr. Hendrick went and bought up a whole bunch of stuff from, you know, just take the card and go buy these grocery stores out and take stuff down there. And that's what they did. And a lot of the teams were doing that. I mean, all the teams from the top to the bottom were supplying anything they could, holding food drives and everything. And it was just an endless flow of trucks and planes and helicopters. You've heard the story, I'm sure, of Greg Biffle and Cletus flying out there and helping people. And again, where were the other sports, you know? Like, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great kind of encompassing answer about community, right? From supporting people in need to just like the connections you have to drinking a beer in the campgrounds. Emily, I'm dying to hear your answer and your thoughts about community in NASCAR.
I guess so. For me, I grew up watching NASCAR on TV. I didn't go to the track until 2016. I went to my first Daytona 400, excuse me. And then, like, I went to Daytona a couple other times, but it wasn't until like 4 years ago I camped for the first time with my friends. And we went there. I was just like, this is another universe. Like, this is a whole other world. Like, why did nobody tell me this existed?
Yeah.
It just kind of snowballed from there. And just being able to do like this with you guys now, I never dreamed this is like what my life would be. Like, going to different tracks. Like, I always have the different, you know, spots I hit to say hi to all my friends now. Like, it really just is one huge family. And it's why I started track view racing, just because I feel like, you know, you go through your Instagram or your TikTok page and it's the latest news of NASCAR, the lawsuit, this, that, and the third. And that's great. Like, we need to know. We want to know, of course. But I was just like, why is nobody talking about the infield? So I just kind of started posting it, and it was really cool. Like, you know, I always try to be very respectful when filming the public, never post kids, never post something that I wouldn't want anybody thinking of me, like being very respectful in that sense. But getting feedback like, oh, that's my uncle, oh, that's me. And like, everybody had a very positive, you know, feedback to it. And I feel like getting to go to all these different tracks now and just having, like, I can go by myself and I'm going to find people to be with. And it's really cool. I love the whole community. It's been awesome.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you're, you know, feeling that niche of like, people want to hear about the campgrounds and see that. I mean, you do way more than that, but like, I think that is like NASCAR fans, I think similar to college football a little bit, but like even more so, where you're there the whole weekend, you have the RV, you have the camper, like it is a lifestyle. And with NASCAR being such like a mobile sport, right? Like, people do just go RV multiple times a year following the races. So I love that.
The RV community is so like passionate too. Like, I'm sorry,
yeah, go. Go.
With like me, I've found that it's really cool. So I think it was last year at Dover. You know, you'll walk up, you just meeting the people that you're next to, and so they like one on the right side of me. They became like friends. We see each other at Pocono every year now. I go to Dover and I see them, and you know they had a whole bunch of extra firewood, and they were like, "Here, like it's all yours. Like enjoy it for the night. We're going to bed. Like keep it running. Like burn it away, because you know we don't need it." And then the other people, they like went to Home Depot and they're like, "Do you guys need like?" Everybody is. It really is. You would think that everybody's just one big family. Like they'll offer if you need any groceries. Do you need a beer? You need food? You need this? You need that? Like you go there and it becomes a home for everybody for the weekend.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. I think for me, you know, having grown up in the sport, like with my, you know, my grandpa, my dad passing it down to me, it's like this annual pilgrimage. It feels like when you're going to like this special place. You see all the people. It feels like you're on like special ground, you know,
Yeah.
to be in that environment. And like for me, I think this is true for a lot of racing fans, is like it's maybe you and your family, and maybe you have a few friends that are into racing, but like you're kind of the oddball. And so I think like a lot of people feel that way, and then they go to the racetrack and they're like, yes, people who get me. I don't care if you like Joey Logano. I don't care if you like Denny Hamlin. Like we're like, this is awesome.
We're all
Like yeah, like you speak my language. So like I think there's that's one of the things I love the most, is like people who they just get it because they have that same passion and energy. And I think like it feeds into all the examples you gave of like people being generous, or people, you know, wanting just to like hang out and talk racing. Like I've had a lot of cool experiences with that this year because of you know, what I've been posting and sharing online, where people just like want to stop and chat and talk racing and just like want to say hello. Or like the amount of times at racetracks where I've given away free beer or people have given me free beer. It's just like I couldn't even keep track of that.
Yeah, this year has definitely been extra special, I think, too, like going to the tracks and being able to meet everybody and just like forming this little community that even with like all online, you get to see it in real life, like for like a weekend kind of.
Right.
It is really cool to like, it's something very special that when you get to see everybody that's supporting you. And I feel like for me, when I went to Pocono, it put it into perspective for me, like, oh, like, I had like one woman like with her two little girls, and they were like we love your page. I'm like, I say such awful things about Denny Hamlin, and I'm giving right now. I'm so sorry. Like, you know, so it definitely kind of made me think about the things. I mean, I'm still gonna like joke about Denny Hamlin, but it puts it into perspective. You know what I mean? It definitely does.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It is a wild kind of experience. Or like I had a couple times this year where people are like, hey, I really love this one specific video you posted. And I was like, oh, dang, like I posted that months ago and forgot about it. Like, you know, you just, it's like, that's awesome. It's but weird. Okay, we have some more like community questions. Emily, I want to let you kind of take the lead on these, of which ones you want to dive into.
Did you guys want to like talk about what your favorite tracks were? I'll be honest, I can't choose. Like I mean, I have to say Pocono. I feel like I have to say Pocono. I love them regardless. But what was your guys' favorite track?
Yeah, I'll go next. So I went to for NASCAR races. I went to Richmond and I went to Bristol. It was my first time at Bristol. It was unreal. I loved it. Bristol is like, couldn't believe I was there. It literally felt like I was in the movie Cars, especially the ARCA race.
Yeah.
Where they're just like going. The ARCA race was wild. That was just super fun. That was my favorite like NASCAR, and I got to go to a lot of like local tracks and regional tracks this year. It's really hard. I'm like Emily. I'm like, I don't know if I can pick a favorite. But,
I know. I mean, my favorite is anyone that you got to wave the green flag at. That was so cool. Like literally any of those. That was so cool. I was like, I'm living through John right now. This is so cool.
That'd be pretty
Yeah, that was cool. I got to do that at a lot of places. And yeah, one Natural Bridge was one that really surprised me in Virginia. That place rocks. Like it's so like gritty and old school, but they've like updated it. It's just really like loved all the tracks I went to this year, but like Natural Bridge was cool. And it was also my wife's first dirt track experience, which was what made it extra special. So she was like just kind of blown away. Yeah.
Oh boy, favorite track. So yeah, I've got a couple because again, it goes back. There are so many great experiences like with the sport. It's hard to really pick one unless you're like your local NASCAR track. If you go there for your entire life and nothing else, that's probably your favorite. But you have to be able to see the others because we talk about needing more road courses or international, or let's go race at a football stadium. Like we already have so many tracks that are so unique, from Bristol being like you get the Friday Night Lights feel like you're like a college football game. You can't hear anything. It's even louder. And
so
it's just, you can see everything going on track. And then you have Talladega where you get blown out of your seat, every minute and a half or every minute. And then you don't see them for, a little while, and you can kind of get half a conversation in before they come back live and look that off again. And so you have a lot more fan interaction there, whereas Bristol, you can't scream to the person next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's so, they're all so special. And then you go to Watkins Glen and you get to see somebody, outperform everyone else there that wouldn't at an intermediate. So that's kind of got its own feel. It's got that sports car-esque feel there where you're in the paddock instead of the garage and all that stuff. But I don't know. I said I took Alina to her first race. It was Dirt Bristol. She actually just commented. Yeah, took her to Dirt Bristol. So I got NASCAR and first dirt race out of the way right off the bat. The feeling of you're going to go home with dirt in your eyeballs and your teeth and everywhere. And you can watch the first couple cars go by if you don't bring the goggles. That is, you can watch the first couple cars go by, but then you have to like kind of turn your head and watch them go, because if you watch them, it's sandblasted to death. But so that was really cool. Getting her out there, and I got to get little man at his first race too soon. But that was, so Bristol's kind of holds that extra meaning for me. Just the atmosphere of it all, it being her first race. Now they've got, they had the dirt. Now they're thankfully they went back to the pavement. I'd like to see dirt again, maybe once or twice, but now everybody else hates it, so whatever. And I think professionally, I'd have to say, because as a fan, I have to love Talladega because that's just where I've been for years as a kid. But professionally, can't stand it because it's just so much walking. It's so big, and you have to go for, you have to walk 2 miles to get to anything, and the fan interaction is a little bit iffy. But then you go to somewhere like Dover. I enjoy Dover because even when they neutered the Cup cars, and they were still sideways. Every race that goes to Dover, every car that goes to Dover is sideways through the corner. They choose up tires. It's awesome to see what I believe actual racing should be. You should be this close from crashing the car every corner, and the driver should drive the damn cars. So you have that, and so I love Dover. I like being able to show up and walk across the little overpass there and then be right where I need to be and not have to walk 6 miles like at Talladega. But then you have Daytona that comes with the fresh beginning of the year feel, where you go through the tunnel for the first time in the year and you're like, okay, I kind of missed it. Off season was kind of boring, I guess. So then you get there, and then the lights come on, it gets dark, and the people and the atmosphere is always electric at Daytona. It doesn't matter if it's a midnight green flag because it's been raining all day. It's still just a very special track to go to, whether that's sports car or NASCAR. because then you have the sports car deal where if you've never been able to watch, if you're ever going to watch an IMSA race, I can get they can be boring, especially 24 freaking hours of it. But if you go to Daytona and just watch them at night, because they build a lot of those cars around the aesthetics of them based around nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Mustang has the running pony on the side that lights up, at night, and all the AMG Mercedes the interior is completely lit up. You can see the driver as he goes by. It's really, really cool to see, and NASCAR is no different. It's 4 wide and loud, and all the fans are wasted. Yeah, it's a good time. So I don't know if I can pick a favorite. There are just so many that are great. I can pick my least favorites.
If you want to, go for it. I'm curious.
So, for the longest time, professionally, not as a fan, I think Atlanta was a great track. Professionally, hate it. Can't stand it. It seems like every time I go to Atlanta, something bad happens. So I've just kind of...
You've just associated at this point.
Yeah. Like, as a fan, it's like, man, if I could stay home this weekend and watch it on TV, it would help me out a lot. But then having to go there, it's like... I mean, like I told y'all, I ended up having to, leave my last organization at Atlanta, so I got left there, So Atlanta is something. I will never call it Echo Park. I don't care. I don't know why. I don't know why we have like worldwide, whatever, Gateway. It's still Gateway, St. Louis. We can name it whatever, but and like Sonoma finally is Sonoma again. What was it? It was like Sears Point. Then
it was Sears Point.
Yeah. Whatever Infineon means. I still don't. I don't know what Infineon is. I'm just ignorant to it, but I don't know what that is. So, I mean, if they ever came along and decided to change Talladega to something else, first off, the people would riot. Second off,
for sure.
Oh
I wouldn't allow it to happen.
What would you name it? And if somebody came and bought it and was like, yeah, we're going to name it O'Reilly now. Oh, God. Yeah, just, I don't know. So I'd say Atlanta, but I've kind of come off Atlanta a little bit because we went there with the BMWs and won at Road Atlanta. So I was like, my buddy was like, well, now you kind of have to like it, right? I was like, no, we're technically still an hour from Atlanta Speedway, so I don't have to. So there's that one, and I don't like going to Texas Motor Speedway. There's just, I don't know. To me, it doesn't really offer anything different. They're like, well, everything's bigger in Texas except the racetrack. Apparently, it's not big at all. And I don't know. There's people are probably going to tear me up for that, but I don't think Texas really brings anything crazy special. But at the same time, they shouldn't go, reconfigure it. That's like the popular thing to do now. Like if fans are like, oh, I don't really care for it. It's like, well, let's rebuild it. Let's give it more banking, or I don't know, throw dirt on it or mulch or something, and make it different. I'm surprised we've not put skis on the damn cars and put them in the ocean yet, because I think aside from flying, that's the only thing we haven't done. And we have this thing where anyway, getting off a tangent. We can move on from this one. Get my blood pressure.
I love it.
You made me actually think maybe one of like the newer tracks or not newer, but one of the new tracks that I went to, new for me, was Lime Rock. That was really cool to see. They do a phenomenal job for the fans, like setting up and just like providing entertainment. They make it so walkable, and they have trams if you don't want to walk, and being able to walk throughout like the inside of it. And I mean, it's kind of similar, I guess, like Watkins Glen, but like much smaller. But I felt like it just had a much homier vibe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Everybody was just super close in their lawn chairs, like very laid back, kind of like, again, going back to that like family connection, kind of like everybody's just kind of there to be friends and have a good time. You still have that at Watkins Glen, but I just feel like it's such a much bigger, track that you're a little bit more separated from, like, fan experience, like from one-on-one, where at Lime Rock, it's really cool. They definitely, like, everybody connects there. It's really, really cool.
So going back to the tracks, not going to complain too much more, but the Rock, man, when we went back to the Rock, it had a lot of that same feel as far as being like, it felt very grassroots, felt very something you could like, you would feel like you could see. Well, I grew up in Alabama, so walk out the back porch and you could like run into the Rock. It's very out there. There's not, like Gateway where there's the arch, or Chicago where you're in the street or anything like that. The but where they really dropped the ball at the Rock, I don't know. Were you there? Were either one of y'all there? No. So I actually went to after the. I don't think I was pitting. I was pitting an Xfinity car, but not a truck. I think it was. Either way, I went out there, and during one of those races that I wasn't a part of, I decided to just go be the fan for a few hours. So I went up in the stands, and I'm looking for the Rock specific merchandise. So like, this is the return. I'm gonna get like a hoodie or a hat or something. And I kid you not, there was one very small kiosk up in the grandstands that was selling any sort of the Rock merchandise at all. And it was like the very generic, like some of the airbrush stuff, like no real logos or anything like that on it, just like the Rock, like written in like Times New Roman or whatever on it. It was like, it felt so disingenuous and out of touch. And I was looking around, I was like, is there anywhere else that's selling like the Rock merch? And they said no. So they were like almost all out the first day, and there was just nothing there. And like, well, you can buy the rest of it online. Like, well, what about the fans that came here that want to give you their money, make some good stuff and make some money? Like, you could have charged $85 for a hoodie and it's going to sell out. I just thought that was very, very strange. But everything else seemed to be pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge swing and a miss there. They
big time
missed opportunity. Goodness. Emily, what any other questions you want to get into?
Did you guys want to talk about the best thing in NASCAR right now, and then go into like any 2026 predictions or anything you're excited for?
San Diego. I'm excited for that one.
Me too.
I'm excited for that. Being on, I never thought I would willingly walk back onto a military installation, but especially when they did the whole promo stuff for it, they actually did a good job finally of promoting this race. And I saw a rendering of what it's supposed to look like, and running down, to have the cars run right up against the coast where the ships are it would have been a huge miss if they didn't incorporate as much of the military as they could possibly get in touch with. And now, how is this going to work for the guys that are actually serving on that base? It might be pretty irritating if they don't like NASCAR, but you know what?
They're going to like NASCAR.
It's our weekend. They can have the base the rest of the year. But I think that's going to be something I'm really excited for. I'm not going to break out a uniform or nothing, but it would be it'd be pretty cool to be able to go up there and kind of see how that all unfolds, because there's a lot of opportunity there to do something that we haven't done before. And I personally think like going to race the football stadium was fine, but like probably should have done it just for a year. This is something that you probably don't want to do every year, but they're probably going to for at least the next 3. So that's something I'm excited for regardless.
Yeah, San Diego should be awesome. Emily, you're going, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't been to any like West Coast races yet, so this will be my first one. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And besides that, I feel like, I'm just always looking forward to Daytona. I can never get to that track. I love Daytona. Are you going to Daytona next year, John?
I am not. No, right now I don't. It's up in the air where all I'm going, but for sure I'll be going to Kansas Fall. That's my home track where I grew up going to, and this year is the 25th anniversary of Kansas Speedway. So my dad and I are going to go back, and that should be really cool because I get to go to the inaugural race. I'm planning to go to the Spring Phoenix race, since that's got the Xfinity IndyCar doubleheader. So that should be kind of fun. And I've not been to Phoenix before, so not always the best racing, but like beautiful track, beautiful setting. So that'll be cool. And then I'm debating, I'm probably going to have to choose between one or the other to do like maybe Friday, Saturday. I don't think I can do another Sunday, but looking at either Martinsville spring or Dover in the spring. So we'll see. But probably like a Friday, Saturday thing. And then of course I'm going to try and hit as many local tracks as I can and, you know, bombard them, wave some more green flags.
I love it. Keep bombarding them.
They're great. A lot of them have invited me out, which has been super
Martinsville's a good. Have you ever been to Martinsville?
I've been once. That was 10 years ago. So I would love to go back. I keep wanting to go back and it just doesn't work out. So
I love Martin. Everything about Martinsville, minus the hot dogs, is good.
Martinsville Hot Dog Hater Club.
Those things are trash. And it used to not be that bad, like before COVID and everything. But oh my Lord, what happened? I still eat them.
Yeah, sure.
Novelty, but man, they're just not good.
I'm like you guys though. I think San Diego is going to be awesome. I think that'll be a really, really cool experience, and I'll be curious to see where they go from here. If they do San Diego again, if they do San Diego streets after the military base, like I think that's originally where they were maybe looking, and then like there's a lot of rumors, right? Like there's rumors around Brazil, or I'd love to see us go to Canada. But I'm curious, like you, Brandon, the stadium thing is cool, but it'd be cooler if you could rotate it around and maybe hit some markets that you don't normally, you can't hit or don't normally hit. So
I don't know if you guys heard about it, because it's gotten like no publicity, but NASCAR is actually doing a showcase right now at Fuji Speedway in Japan. So is that some foreshadowing? I would love it.
That would be cool.
That'd be so cool, yeah.
That would be really
in the 90s, they ran in Japan, and I saw they've got the Hendrick, the Garage 56 car, and then 2311's there, and I think Legacy. So I've got some different contingencies, which is really cool.
I was kind of irritated that they were talking about going international, and they're talking about all these different countries that would, mind you, be great to go to, like Brazil and what was the other one they were talking about going to? I can't remember. They're somewhere in Europe. I can't remember the country.
Oh, is it Netherlands? Because they've got Zandvoort that's like invited NASCAR or something.
It might have been, yeah. That would be super cool to do. But we've already been to Japan. So I talked about it before because I'm a huge fan of Japan. I got deployed there while I was in the Marine Corps, and it's just the culture is just awesome. The people are great. And they love like our motorsports. It's a win-win, and everybody's like, well, how did we get there? So, I don't know. We did in the 90s. We could do it in the 90s. We could do it now. You know, like, but that's a market that needs to be tapped into. Maybe like they're saving that for later. Maybe just speculating, but maybe they're like, well, we know that's going to be a win, so we're gonna hold on to that. I don't know, but I think that needs to happen soon.
That would be awesome. I'd be a huge fan of that. And it's interesting. Yeah. You hear a lot about Brazil or some Europe, or even like they've talked about some of the Saudi Arabian countries. But I really think, Japan would be a huge win. Australia too, but I think Japan's probably logistically easier, and they have a huge like car and motorsports culture there. So that feels like it'd be a big win.
There's actually a comment I was just looking at that kind of gave me flashbacks here. The spring 22 during the snow delay. And it was so cold because I went down there not prepared because I was expecting to be there and be back in my car by the time I got cold. Man, that was pretty rough. That was really rough, actually.
I've been to some cold races, and those are not fun. I about froze to death at one back in Nebraska.
Never prepared for it.
Rough time.
When you think of going to a NASCAR race, you're not thinking of freezing to death.
No, especially like, certain times of the year like that in the spring where you're like, oh, it's kind of warm. Like, it's not too bad, just a hoodie. And then it gets cold at night and you're like, oh, I've made a mistake.
And it drops 40 degrees.
Yeah. Atlanta, like this past February was rough. We were car camping because I went from Daytona to Atlanta. So I was like, oh, we'll just go in the car. It was like record low. I was like, this is awful. 3 a.m. turning on the car. Oh my God, it was fun. I loved Atlanta. It was a great track.
The worst time to car camp.
Yeah, yeah.
Night,
Not smart, not.
Ooh, that sucks.
But I would say, besides San Diego, the other thing I'm really looking forward to is the Miami Championship. I'll be going to that. Definitely excited for it to be back in Miami. I think that'll be fun.
That's gonna be cool.
It'd be cool to go win the championship, I would argue.
Well, we might get maybe two in a row for Larson. We'll see.
He's very good there. Yeah.
I don't know.
Can't wait for that. I will say I was not too often these days. I legitimately get into the cup racing, but I was watching it by myself in there. I was like jaw on the floor. Just I never in my life thought I would be upset that Denny Hamlin didn't win a race or a championship, even for that matter. But I was watching it. And I typically start the cup races kind of late and just stay off social media so that I can skip through commercials. And got a little one too, and a lot of other things going on. So I'm getting towards the end of it, and I'm like, oh, Denny's won the championship finally. Good for him. Woohoo! And I go to the kitchen and start hearing something about a caution. I was like, of course there's a caution. Like, why wouldn't there be? I forgot about that. That's in NASCAR's DNA. There's going to be a caution. So I walked back in there and I was like, okay, don't know if I would have taken 4 there, but I mean, whatever. Like Heim did it. If anybody else could do it, it would be Denny. And then the dude just got choked up bad. I was like, yeah, I mean, I was, and I just kind of sat there and just stared at it for what seemed like half an hour, like just trying to process it. Cause I can't imagine, like having been through the pain that you have to deal with just being a crew guy in the sport and how his like just that anguish I can only imagine, like with his personal situation and everything. I could only imagine how just brutally awful that was. And I wouldn't have blamed him a bit if he didn't talk to anybody and just got on the damn plane and went home, because that's what I would have done. He's a better man than I am, because I would have left and not spoken to anybody. I don't know how he held it together. Like, that's just one of those, man. And for it would have been different if he just lost it by losing it. Like he won the race. Like plain and simple, he won the race, and he had it won. And to have that ripped out off a technicality is just God. And then for it to go to Hendrick, like
yeah,
it was like a double punch.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
That was also just like, and then it was Hendrick, like.
Yeah, and on the other end of that, you got to think Kyle Larson's sitting at his dining table at night, like, kind of didn't really earn that one. But yeah, I mean, at least I would. I'd feel a little bit less genuine about it, just because, like, I mean, I lost 99.6% of the race, and then won the championship. I don't know. Yeah. We're not going to go into format.
That'll be a whole other thing. Yeah.
2 more hours of sitting here talking about it.
Oh, goodness. Okay, on that note, I want to see, is there any topics we missed or any other final questions before I'm about to get blinded by the sun?
No, yeah.
I was actually looking at this, reflecting off my helmet or something back there earlier. I saw it poking through.
Shine bright like a diamond.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been awesome. Brandon, thanks so much for the time sharing about your experience. I feel like, you were the Wizard of Oz today. We pulled back the curtain. We saw all of what it means to be in NASCAR, all about the pipeline, how NASCAR has changed. And we really appreciate your candidness. This has been super interesting and insightful, and just been fun to talk to you guys. So, Emily, any other signing off final words?
No, I want to thank you, John, for I feel like you kind of put all of this together in all the question format. So thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. And I'm happy we got to do this. I feel like we got to meet.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So fun. And I hope that, at least for me, I know that this has been nice to have something Sunday afternoon when normally I'd be clicking on the race. And so I hope it's been fun for everyone else to have a little bit of NASCAR connection while season is down for a bit. So, all right, this has been awesome. Thank you, guys.
Have
I
a good
appreciate it.
one.
See you
Bye.
guys.